meeting, the Siloam Springs Board of Directors for August 4, 2020 to order. Roll call.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Would you please stand as Director Hunt leads us in opening prayer? Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, first I want to thank you for this unseasonably cool August day. What a nice reprieve we had from the heat today, and I just thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And Lord, during this time when it seems like freedoms are being taken away to some, just help us to remember that you are really our only true source of freedom. I pray that you replace the fear that some have with just a spirit of peace and of understanding that you are in control of all that's going on in our lives, in our city, and our state, and our government, and in the world. Lord, I do pray for those who have been impacted by COVID in one way or the other, that you provide healing. And I just pray again that you help us to take this time we're in one day at a time and remember that you are ultimately in control of it all. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening. Hope everybody is, as Director Hunt alluded to in her prayer, hope everybody's enjoying this atypical August evening and day here in Siloam Springs. I ask that at this particular time that those in the audience or up on the board would silence any electronic devices we have or mute them so that they won't interrupt anyone who might be speaking. I'm going to work on this. This is a new mask my daughter gave me, and it just doesn't like to stay out of my mouth. So I don't want to mumble, so I'm going to try to work through this. Okay. First item on our agenda is our public input. The public input area time is when the public may address the Board of Directors regarding any item on the consent agenda or any city business not listed on the board's regular agenda. If you'd like to come and address the board on either the consent agenda or non-agenda items, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and I'll give you 3 minutes, give or take.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board, and City Manager. I'm Arthur Holbert, live at 20705 Highway 16, and that's here in Siloam Springs. I'm also the President and CEO of the Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce, and I'm excited to see you all, and also excited that the Chamber will be hosting a candidate forum for us this Thursday. And I just want to give a chance, just kind of give some of the details and the formats, but I'll still try to do it within 2 minutes and 30 seconds that I have left. It will be on this Thursday. It'll be in the 205 East Jefferson Siloam Springs Library. So it'll be in person. It will also be via Zoom. This forum is primarily for the city director candidates, but for the first 15 minutes we will have state candidates there, the ones for the state representatives and also the state senators. Each of those emails have gone out. They will have 3 minutes apiece to speak. They will not have questions. So from 6:15 to 8 o'clock, that will be for the candidates for the board of directors. And basically, each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the voters and tell what's important to them and why they're running for office. So the first 2 minutes will be introduce yourself, why you're running for office. Each candidate will then be asked a total of 3 to 4 questions. 2 questions will be determined prior to the forum, and 1 to 2 questions will be determined depending on time taken from the audience of the people present at the forum at the library. So there will be, I think, a max capacity, they said, of 30 people that can be in the library. So the people that show up, we're going to give them the opportunity to ask questions. We'll select 1 or 2 from them depending upon time. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Candidates will draw numbers to determine who answers questions in which order. That way it's completely fair. Each candidate will then have 1 minute to speak in closing. All people attending the Zoom forum will be muted unless they're a candidate, during which time they're asked to speak. There's a Zoom link we have sent to all candidates. So once again, in person library. We understand that some people can't make it for various reasons. Candidates can Zoom in, they can phone call in, they can have a pre-recorded 2-minute video. If they cannot make it, we will record it at the chamber and we'll play it there. So I have a 2-minute pre-recorded video. We will not allow any spokespeople. So it's very, very important. So if a candidate cannot make it, another spokesperson will not be allowed to speak for them on their behalf. So it's important that they either call in or do a video. We submitted questions from the business community, from the press, all chamber members, and we're accepting questions till 11 a.m. Wednesday morning. We will share those 2 questions with the candidates Thursday morning by 8 a.m., those 2 that we'll have before. So you will know those 2 questions first. I do not know what questions, obviously, that the people present will choose. Any questions? Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Arthur. Appreciate the chamber in doing this for the city. Thank you. Anyone else? Being none, then we will move on to our consent agenda. And I will read the items on the consent agenda before I ask the board any questions regarding it. Okay, first of all, the consent agenda this evening is item A, regular meeting minutes of July 21, 2020. B, memorandum of understanding, MOU, Siloam Springs School District for the School Resource Officers, Police Department, in the amount of $165,862.15. Dedication of utility easements at the 1000 block of South Washington Street and 600 block of East Kenwood Street. Arkansas Department of Aeronautics grant application and Garver Engineering work order number 05 for the airport pavement marking rehabilitation project. And finally, item E, contract amendment, Public Works Department, Water Division, design build services, water treatment plant upgrade, Burns and McDonnell Engineers. All right, I read them. Now I'll entertain a motion first of all, is there anyone on the board that would like to have any one of these items removed and placed on the regular agenda? Being none, then we will move forward, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Yes, Carol.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as it appears or as it's presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All right. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Thank you. Next, we move to our regularly scheduled items, and we go into ordinances. First ordinance this evening is ordinance 20-18, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to PD for the 700 to 1000 block of Highway 16 South. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. I'm Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Before you is the third reading for the B zoning ordinance occurring at the 700 to 1000 block of Highway 16 South. This is going from R2 to PD. Staff has not received any additional comments since the last reading, and we continue to recommend approval, and we stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone from the audience having comments regarding ordinance 20-18? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Marla.
all I had was just a question for Ben. I noticed is their property that's south of the planned development. Is it going to be included in that? I've seen it noted that it's included, and then I've seen it's not. The corner where the intersection is.
The corner is not included in the planned development.
Okay.
Yes, Carol?
I move that we place ordinance number 20-18. Is this this is the
Third reading. Hmm?
on its third reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to suspend? Or is there discussion on the motion to suspend? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-18, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from R2 to PD, the property located in the 700 to 1000 block of Highway 16 South.
Thank you, Philip. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 20-18.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion to adopt. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Ordinance 2018-18 is adopted. Next is ordinance 20-19. Third reading, annexation of 53.63 acres at the 23,000 block of Lawless Road. Ben Rhodes.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Before you is the third reading for the petition annexation to take in 53.63 acres north of Lawless Road. Since the last reading, staff has not received any additional comments on this, and we continue to recommend approval but stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and/or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Brad?
Ben, just out of curiosity, and I don't know if you'll know this, but we're looking at the 30 of the 36. Did those 6 landowners just not respond at all? Didn't get anything back from them?
We did not receive anything back from them on the petition. So I assume they just did not respond. Yeah, the city staff didn't prepare the petition. It was done by the individual wishing the annexation. So.
Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Read.
recommend we place ordinance number 20-19 on its third reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there further discussion on the motion to suspend? Being none, we will vote. Roll call?
Chrysler,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-19, an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and assigning the same to a ward.
Thank you, Philip. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 20-19.
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion to adopt? Being none, we will vote. Roll call?
Coleman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Miley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 20-19 is adopted. Next is item H, ordinance 20-25, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from I-1 to C2 at 4650 Highway 412 East. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. Before you is a rezoning permit located at 4650 Highway 412 East, as the mayor stated. The request is to rezone an I-1 property to C2 roadway commercial. This is the site plan that was provided by the applicant. The property is now vacant. It was formerly used as warehouse space. The proposal which prompted the rezoning is to convert this into a retail space storage, and a dance school. So here is the future land use map for this area. The red shading is for commercial and office use. So the rezoning is consistent with the future land use maps guidance. And here is the property. This is looking to the north. And then we took another picture of the front of the building looking to the south, just so everyone can see what it looks like from the front. Staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval of the proposed C2 zone, and we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience? Anybody here with this ordinance request that would like to make a statement? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and/or questions of staff. Yes, Carol.
I just wanted to say that I'm excited to see this building being used again. I don't know that it sat very long vacant, but I'm excited to see it being used for office and the dance school. I'm kind of excited about the dance school. Not that I'm going to the school, but and I think we're going to have a bike shop maybe there, so I think that's great.
Fantastic. That's great. All right. Any other comments? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to suspend on this ordinance 2025. Yes, Carol.
I move that we place ordinance number 20-25 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion as read on ordinance 2025. Roll call?
Yes.
Appington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-25, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, map, rezoning from I-1 to C2, the property located at 4650 U.S. Highway 412 East.
Thank you, Philip. Next, we move on to resolutions, and our only resolution this evening is Resolution 39-20, preliminary plat development permit for Fox Tail Addition South 2000 to 2500 block of East Kenwood. This is your last one tonight, Ben. The Ben
Yes.
Road Show is about to come to an end. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. So yes, Board, this is before you is a preliminary plat development permit. This is occurring at the 2000 to 2500 block of East Kenwood Street. The request is to subdivide 59.04 acres into 167 single-family lots. Here you see the full site plan. You will note the overly large detention basin. This is due to existing drainage issues in this area. The developer is over-detaining stormwater to reduce the current pre-development peak flow to assist the drainage situation, and staff is fully supportive of this scheme. The city will be deeded both areas for maintenance with the final plat acceptance. This is in line with the current city policy, taking in residential detention basins for maintenance. Area 1 is a primarily wooded area outside of the pond, so maintenance should be fairly minimal in that area. Sidewalk is shown on the east side of Highway 16, and side paths, which are 10 feet wide, are planned for the north and west sides. And I will draw those out here, right along into like that. These pedestrian improvements will be built by the developer as part of the preliminary plat process. The side path will stop at lot 20, which is right here. And the plan being that the path would eventually continue on along a potential future alignment of Waukesha Road. There are also plans to dedicate right-of-way for a realignment of Waukesha Road so that there would be a proper four-way intersection with Waukesha and Quarter Road. There are also plans, as shown on the master street plan, to extend Corder Road west to Highway 16, which would tie into Keck Road, and I'll draw that in right there at the south end of the property. This project would likely be combined with the Waukesha improvements to be one project built at one time. The proposed preliminary plat does not trigger an obligation that these streets be constructed at any particular time. However, portion of the future right-of-way is requested now so that it is in hand whenever the construction would occur. Both projects, again, are shown on the master street plan. You can see you can see here that the planned area for Waukesha Road alignment leaves a lot that is opens a track basically that's west of that right of way. Whenever that is realigned, we would either deed that to the adjoining property owner or it would be retained as right of way. And that decision would likely be finalized when the street is constructed and the utilities are relocated in that area. There will also be a lift station to the west of Lot 40. This meets the city standards and is needed due to the topography and the area. Finally, the existing R3 zone allows for two-family housing or duplexes. However, the applicant, who also intends to build the houses, states that everything in the addition will be single-family, and there will be covenants that we filed that will only permit single-family housing, and a POA will also be established to help enforce those covenants. So moving on here, we're looking at the phasing plan. So this project will be built in two phases, as you see in the two different shades there. All proposed connections to existing streets will be done as part of phase one. This will prevent a situation of a no outlet street or something like that from occurring because all the connections to the existing streets are part of phase one. And finally, this is the site view looking to the north. The area here is the drainage I was telling you about earlier that was part of that area one. Staff has also requested that some of the trees here be preserved, as many as possible, just for aesthetics in that area. And finally, the staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval with no needed conditions, and we are available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and/or questions of staff.
Mayor?
Yes, Mindy?
Question for Ben. First, I just want to get my plug in. I understand there's going to be a similar subdivision north of here as well at some point in the Foxtail plans, possibly, that will go between Kenwood and 412.
That's correct. The PUD that we voted on earlier.
Right,
yes,
exactly. So I just want to get my plug in now to make sure we have sidewalk, because even this development, if there's the sidewalk that they're planning along 16, which I think you said one along 16 and Kenwood, still going to have people crossing Kenwood and heading down 16 without sidewalks. So just I think we've got that sort of in our plans. But then I have a question about this zoning. It's R3, but the developer is planning on only doing single family homes, and yet R3 does include duplexes if somebody wanted to do that at some point. Is there any possibility we may try to go to R2 so that duplexes aren't built if, say, the developer decides not to build?
It is a possibility. Yes, we could consider an R2 there, certainly.
Okay, just if there was something that came up and the developer wasn't able to build all the homes, but you had some single-family homes in there, and then you had space for other homes, I think we'd want them still to be single-family.
Yes, and I would agree with you
So there
Very much.
might be a chance to get that R2 at some point. Okay.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Yes, Carol?
So Ben, excuse me, even though they have covenants that say they have to be single-family homes, is that correct?
That they are proposing covenants that would state that, yes.
But the city has no authority over covenants.
We're not charged as a city to enforce the covenants. That's typically done by the property owner
As
association.
Mindy was saying, anything could be built between single-family and duplexes. Is that right?
Those are both two allowed use units in R3, yes.
Further questions?
Mayor?
Well,
Yes, Brad?
I will note one thing, Ben, and it's a similar, smaller housing project that has a combination of duplex and single-family homes, are off Country Club. And what's occurring with our duplexes, and I don't know if it's, I'm assuming it's the way we're written, you've got a duplex with a single-car garage and driveways by both single-car garages that split the two units. And what's happening, and I didn't want to bring it up without, I actually wanted to have a conversation with city admin, and I will do that in the future. But now that we're having this is being brought up, what's occurring is you've got, it's very economical in a duplex next to a residential for people multiple people to move in that duplex, which means multiple vehicles, which means they're parking in the grass, they're blocking the sidewalks, and then they use the garage for storage, because the duplex is normally a time to save and get revenues built up to, move on to that next step and chase that American dream. And so in doing so, we violate some of our ordinances that we have on the books right now. And, it's in my ward. I'm not going to turn them in because it's a difficult task. It's a difficult time, number one. But when we open that gateway for duplexes around residential, and for those that do a family coming in and buying residential, and they come in with duplexes, there is a potential to deplete that property value and be a negative impact for those looking to invest in the residential. It's a double-edged sword. I'm observing it in Ward 2 specifically, no other ward. I would use Ravenwood as an example of, they did adequate driveway space for their duplexes. They're larger, so we're building more efficient. I guess we'd call them efficiency duplexes. Where there may be 2-bedroom, that sort of thing, a single-car garage. But I would just encourage staff to drive around town, specifically Ward 2, look at some of the new development and see what's happening with duplexes that are butting up against new residential. And it's concerning because I just don't want us to get bombed with phone calls, and then we're putting that seat of being that code enforcement's got enough on their plate. But right now, there's some violations going on the very ordinances that we passed, and these are hardworking people. Everybody's trying to, get ahead. But at the end of the day, when 2 or 3 individuals are living in designed for a single vehicle, and there's no place to park, I'd hate for this development to, as they go along and decide that, duplexes can be a better moneymaker for me. I can turn them over quicker, and then we end up into an ordinance issue. It's starting to exist right now, and so I just encourage you as we go through these developments and this growth period, take a look at that. I voted yes for it, and now I'm seeing that some of these things aren't playing out like we're seeing them right now on this piece of paper. And it's concerning. I think it's going to cause us a headache down the road. And when I say us, I mean city staff. Thank you.
Brad, anyone else? Board, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I have a question for Ben.
Okay.
Thank you for staying up there. What would be a process if we were to need that to go back to an R1 or R2, or where it could not have the ability to go to duplex?
We're in discussions with the developer about a potential rezone to R2. So.
Yes, Carol?
Is this the time? I know we're only talking about preliminary plat. When do we talk about zoning?
I would believe it would probably come in at the time of the final plat. Would be the most logical time, I would think.
So there is time, there is going to be a definite time when it comes to us, we can discuss the zones.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I
Philip?
may, I think we at the staff level had some of the same concerns and have started, has been said, started having discussions with the developer. There is a representative of the developer here. I think the board has two options. You can, clearly your comments lend to the concern, and I think the developer is hearing that. So you could approve this with just the knowledge that, Mr. Developer, we have this concern, the board has this concern. You could potentially approve this subject to it being rezoned to R1, but before you do that, I would ask you to ask the developer their comments about that. If that's the board's pleasure, I would say you do that with the acknowledgement that if the board is driving that you let staff take that role to go through the process to rezone it rather than saddle the cost to the developer. R3 allows the single family use. It's a use by right. The concern that you have, I think, and the concern that staff had a few days ago about this was just exactly that it allows for duplexes to come in if something were to happen. So I think if you want that rezoning, directing staff to sort of process it at the staff level, if there's no objection from the developer might be the appropriate thing, if that makes sense.
I'd like to ask that question of the developer.
Make sure you're speaking into the mic there,
I would
Carol.
like to ask that question of the developer, if he would be willing to entertain rezone.
Good evening, Mayor, board members. Jesse Fulcher representing the development team. We just got in this conversation with staff recently about the concerns with R3 allowing duplexes, and I understand what those are. I've spoken with Don and Ben about it, and it's something we're more than happy to look at. Our plan is to do 100% single-family homes, and we have something in our covenants that restricts all of our lots of single-family homes. It's just kind of basic language that we use for our subdivisions. What we'd want to talk through with staff is just to make sure we don't accidentally create a problem. If we go to R2 and now the area standards change and now maybe our lots aren't compliant anymore. So we have to be careful in when we make this change and how we make this change. One thing that may make you feel a little bit better is that the duplex area requirement, lot width requirement, is larger than what our lots are. So if we platted these lots today, and even though a duplex isn't allowed use, the lot area isn't big enough to meet the duplex requirements. So there may be a few lots in the corners that are slightly larger where maybe you could squeeze in a duplex under the current zoning code and requirements of R3. But 98% of the lots simply won't be big enough to allow a duplex. So I understand there's a couple of spots where that could be a concern. We certainly wouldn't want someone to be buying into a neighborhood and have someone buy a lot down the road because we walked away and tried to build a duplex. So we're happy to work with staff to allay your concerns. At this point, we're just trying to get the preliminary plat approved so we can finance through our bank, get our engineers to finish up our construction plans and get going on development because we've already closed on this piece of property. So I understand the concerns, and we'll identify the way to work through this with staff and be happy to work with them to figure it out.
And I do understand that you're wanting to make sure that your lots meet what you want to build. I do understand that.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate, we always need housing, so
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
So Philip, or whoever, does this mean our motion needs to consider a condition?
I think that's your option. I think what you just heard from the developer is that they are more than willing to work with staff to make sure that there aren't any unknowns if it's rezoned to single family. And as long as there aren't any unknowns or any hurdles that is created, I think he's shown that he is willing to work with staff to process that. I think it's not appropriate to wait until the final plat, because the final plat means they've spent all their money and they've put it into the ground, and that's just a perfunctory, looking at the final plat, is it compliant with the preliminary plat? So I would say I don't believe you need a motion. I think the developer has heard your concerns very clearly and is willing to work with us, and if we can make it work, we'll do it. And if there are a couple of hurdles, we'll see if we can't figure out a way to resolve them so we can move it forward with an ultimately R1 zoning.
Okay.
Excuse me, R2 zoning, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Marla?
I have a question of Ben. Is there any way that we can ensure that the sidewalk on the north addition is going to come to the intersection? Because I feel like with this one, they may want to enjoy the park that's going to be in the other one. And we're going to have, side path, and then we'll have the length of that one corner piece of property with nothing there. And I would like to see us go all the way. And I don't know if that would be city's responsibility. We had encouraged the builder to go ahead and do that since it's two properties.
That's a great question. We normally would look at that when the properties are developed individually. Obviously, when the what we call Foxtail North, the one that's the PUD, when that is developed, there'll be sidewalks also along 16, and of course there'll be sidewalks on 16 for this development. So you're correct. There's that one gap, which would be the corner piece. So that would happen when that lot is developed, or if the city wanted to make that a priority in our sidewalk plan that what we're working on to do it earlier.
I think that's something we probably need to look into, is if we, if they're not going to develop it or anything right now, that we need to go ahead and extend that to that corner for safety reasons.
If I may, it's an off-site improvement that you typically can't get from developers. I would suggest that we let you process this one, we process the Foxtail North, and as that builds, and I think there are two areas there along, once those two developments are completed, there's two areas there that are going to be like one lot with no sidewalk to complete it. One would be at the north end of Highway 16 at 412, and one would be at this corner lot to make that connection, if I'm understanding you correctly. We get all that built, then I think the city would need to probably come in and look at making those final connections.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Brad?
So two things, and one's for you, Ben, but Director Coleman had brought this up a while back about affordable housing. So I don't want the developer to think that, we're questioning. We just want to ensure, because when I read this, the thing that popped out of me were starter homes. The ability for people to have affordable homes for whatever X is as they continue to, grow and develop and chase whatever they're chasing in this Siloam Springs community. And second, I brought this up before, I just would caution that I see Progress Avenue extending that same format down 16 to at least Kenwood, to that intersection. And I brought this up before, that section of road there is, number one, that's, I'm just guessing, I'm not in that game anymore, but it's one of our most dangerous intersections in town. We dump a ton of volume on it. Dayspring gets out. I'm excited about the Keck Road and tying that in and all that future, but in the immediate future, as we develop this, that little section of 16 there, you got to remember, we've got apartment complexes to the east. We have a new development, well, not new, but fairly new, with restaurants. And, local knowledge, you guys may not, I'll give you local knowledge. When you leave a certain restaurant off 412, it's easy to cut through and dump back on 16, so you don't have to run the gauntlet across 412. These are things that are occurring. So we have traffic volume, and locals are getting creative on how to make shortcuts through areas. So as we're out there living real life, these are real things. I hate for us to see us put something in, and then we come in 3 years and we finally get to expand that little piece of 16 to match Progress, get a turn lane up. I don't know what that's going to look like. And then we tear up a sidewalk, a connectivity piece, and move it over. So I know you have the master plan, and our city engineers out there just, chomping at the bit, but I'm super concerned about that 16-bit. It's constrictive, turn into Arvest Bank on a Friday, and it's quite a delight. That's a section of road that we've got to work with RDOT or somebody and get, that needs to be tidied up, because we also have the development going down Kenwood to the east. And, there's just a bunch of development. I know it's on your plate, your mind. This is our only time to dump this information on you. Thank you for listening, Ben.
Welcome.
Assuming you were.
Of course.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mindy?
and to add what Director Burns said, which is what I said in the beginning on my plug for that sidewalk going all the way up. You've also got lots of pedestrians. You've got the traffic, but you've also got a lot of pedestrians on sections of that highway that don't have any kind of sidewalk on them. I've had calls from people who drive that road a lot who get very concerned about the pedestrians, who I'm assuming are coming from even as far down as the apartment complex right there at the corner of Kenwood and 16. I do appreciate your explanation. It does make me feel somewhat better that the lots are not big enough right now for the most part. I mean, most of the lots for a duplex, but I still would feel a little bit more comfortable if the staff and the development company could work together to move toward that R2 zoning, just because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And we have had issues before where the two get intertwined and it's not always pretty.
Good stuff. Thank you to staff for input on that too. All right, if there's no further discussion, do I have a motion?
Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
I'll do the motion. Make a motion to approve resolution 39-20, authorizing a preliminary plat development permit for the 2,500 block of East Kenwood Street.
Second.
Is that Marla?
Yes.
Motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve. Roll call?
Eppington,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Staff reports, Philip. Thank you, audience. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. So I have a number of things to report. The Public Works Department is going to have basically an open house with property owners that are alongside the water plant and where the water line easement is going to go for the new water line from the Illinois River. That's going to be at 6 p.m. on August the 5th at the water plant. We're going to invite the abutting property owners over to walk them through the project and help them to make sure they understand what the project is. Last month we had a free drop-off week at the sanitation department at solid waste, rather than having a summer pickup or cleanup week like we were supposed to have in the spring, but we didn't because of COVID. So we collected 62 tons of debris from 301 city customers. For comparison purposes, in fall of 2019, we collected 187 tons. So we didn't quite, we got to about a third of that. The wastewater plant has a couple of large storage tanks storing disinfectant. Those tanks have been leaking. We are replacing those tanks to the tune of $36,932.16. The electric department bought an inventory of AMI meters for $40,121.52. Electric department also bought inventory of Cobra Head street lights. Those are the large overhead lights that hang out like that. $34,070.40. This past Saturday we had a bike race called the Siloam Springs Gravel Bike Race. Staff helped the promoters put that on, and we had individuals. They traveled here from Iowa, Tennessee, Springfield, Missouri, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, South Central Kansas, Little Rock, and several from the I-49 corridor. Some of them spent multiple nights in town. They had last year they had 48 racers, and this year we had 109 racers. So it was a fairly large bike race for the city, and it's growing from that standpoint. We had nothing but positive comments. We heard nothing but positive comments from those who attended that. As you know, back with the beginning of COVID, we were concerned about budget. We ended up cutting about 6% of our budget out. Based on the numbers, Christina and I, as I've reported in the past, we've seen sales tax numbers not go down like we thought. So we spent the last week or so looking at those things that we cut and started putting items back into the budget. So I just bear with me. I want to go through some of that with you. We put a hiring freeze on. We're going to continue that hiring freeze for the moment. We are putting back all of the operational cuts in the general fund, which totaled about $670,000, with the exception of $207,000 for the comprehensive plan. As much as I would like to see us kick off the comprehensive plan, the update of that, I don't know yet how to do that with COVID and how to make that work. We really need public input, and trying to do it all online I don't think is the way to go, and we need, large amount of people participating. So we haven't worked through that one yet. In the capital in the general fund, we cut $350,000. We're adding all of that back, with the exception of the $130,000 for Main Street, which was our half of that design. Again, it's all related to public input and how do we get that, and I don't think that's the appropriate time to do it yet until we can figure all of that out. The other one project that we're not adding back for the time being, there were half a dozen capital cuts in the police department. We're adding all of that back except for about $10,000 for some improvements to the outdoor training facility. We may add that back later this year. We're just, again, want to see another month or two of sales tax data. In the street fund, we cut the Harvard Street side path. It was totaling $620,000. We're going to continue with that cut. It's a very expensive side path. We were not able to get any grant money for that when we applied to it. I think it's appropriate for us to continue to try to get grant money for that rather than spending that amount of money. And again, at this time, we aren't seeing the state and the county sales tax numbers for street money coming in as rapidly as we're seeing. Our city sales tax is coming in at a higher percentage than we're seeing the county and the state turnback money. In the utility fund, we cut $880,000. We're proposing to put all of that revenue back in, with the exception of all of it in operations. The only thing that we're not putting back in operations is about $150,000 for tree trimming in the electric department. And again, we may do that later as we move into the fall. We just want to get another couple of months worth of sales tax numbers. And the electric department is down in sales. Right now we're down almost $600,000 in electric sales because of businesses cutting down, and also because of some of the early on, some of the weather issues where the weather was really nice. It may change over the last couple of months if we have some hot weather. The capital cuts in the utility fund, we're proposing to put all of that back, with the exception of a tractor and mower in the water plant and a grounds mower at the wastewater plant. That's about $100,000. If we don't put that back into the budget in 2020, we'll roll that into the 2021 budget. At the airport, we cut about $65,000, and we are of that, operations was $56,000. I think we can leave those cuts and we'll be okay at this time at the airport. A lot of that was for purchasing of fuel. We're not selling as much fuel, so we don't have to purchase it. The one capital cut at the airport was the replacement of the roof at the FBO, and we're adding that back to the capital at the airport. So in total, we're adding back about $1.2 million, and the remaining cuts are still about $1.6 million. And like I said, originally we originally cut in total about $2.9 million out of the budget. So we're not adding it all back. We're not adding even 50% of it back. But Christina and I looked at sales tax numbers, looking at the utility numbers. We feel like we can move this money back into the budget that was originally cut. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have on that, or at a later date. The last thing I had was just again to remind the public that primary election is next Tuesday, August the 11th. The election will be held at the community building, 110 North Mount Olive Street. Early voting started today for the August 11th primary, and it will run through Monday the 10th. And early voting is at the county clerk's office at 707 South Lincoln. Would encourage everybody to vote, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. We can't hear you.
Thank you, and I don't have the June financials in front of me. Thank you for reminding me. So you have the June financials in front of you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Renee. If you have any questions on those, please let us know. Now that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Philip. All right. Well, it's that time of day, this time of the month, that we end this meeting with our comments from the staff, so director's reports. So I don't have anything that I need to add this time. I'll turn it over to Marla to get the ball rolling.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to congratulate Philip for getting his credentials from ICMA. I don't know what that's all about, but it's a good thing, and so we want to congratulate you for that. I'm anxious to see how these new electric meters work. I know that it'll be more efficient, and in the long run will be able to save us a lot of time and keep staff from having to pull meters. I also want to thank Kelly Carr. The photos that she does and the little reports that she sends out are very nice. You know, it's wonderful to see the different projects that's going on, because we don't have access to getting right down to where the work's being done. And it's really nice to have those to look at. And we can also see that some of the concerns from citizens are starting to be taken care of in some of those projects. And been getting some emails about destruction of public property. Philip responded, and I think that we're covered pretty good on that. You know, I don't see anything like that coming to Siloam, but you never know. But from our laws and stuff that we have, I think that we're covered for anything like that. I have also had some concerns about doing away with the sirens. I think if we do a little more public education on that, we're not going to leave them without any kind of notice system, that it'll help too. And I want to thank Lisa for the packet she put together for her ward. It was about the people that are running, and I hadn't been able to meet all of them, and so I had some reference material, and that was a good initiative, and so I want to thank her for that. And other than that, we're feeding people at the Manna Center, and fed 100 families out of the back of the truck today in Concord, and we're going around to all little towns. And so it's amazing. We go through 40 to 50,000 pounds of food a month.
Congratulations, Philip. That's awesome to get that ICMA. I want to thank Philip because there's a couple, I hear a lot of negatives, and there's a couple of situations that have happened in Siloam, and I think I want to recognize that it shows the character of Siloam. There's a young lady in our community that's 17, almost 18, and her father passed away with the coronavirus a couple of weeks ago. She was left at home by herself, and she was quarantined. She was in a situation that her mom wasn't there, and so the city looked out for her because of flooding issues. The Manna Center made sure she had food. The neighbors were mowing her lawn, and they were also taking meals over to her. That shows the character of Siloam Springs. And then there's another person in my ward. A gentleman called me and he said, "Hey, there's this family down the street, and the husband has corona, but nobody else in the house has it, but he's staying quarantined in the bedroom, and everybody in that neighborhood took turns taking meals over, and they took turns mowing his lawn." That again shows the character of Siloam Springs, and that's why I love living here in Siloam Springs. It's not all negative. There's a lot of positives that I see going on. I have been walking my ward. I talked to Philip back in February, March. I got information. I wanted to present information about what streets have been improved, what projects have been done for the water, wastewater, what police calls have been done, what fire calls have been done. And although we weren't able to get some of it by my ward, I was able to give the information to the people in my ward. And I thought, well, this is the perfect time because I've been getting a lot of calls. How come I don't see signs out for you? How come we're doing an August election? How come we're not doing a November election? And I think this is a perfect time to educate citizens on how our government works. We have an excellent form of government, and this is how it works. And so what I've been doing is a Walk My Ward campaign that I thought about doing in January or February, but because of the corona and they ask everybody to stay in, I've delayed it, and I'm finally getting to do that. And so in that, I asked them to watch the videos, and I even had one phone call from a citizen saying, "Hey, you encouraged me to watch the meetings so I can get to know the incumbents, but you didn't tell me where on the city's website that is." So I walked them through it. I had a lot of people call me and say, "Thank you. I appreciate the information," because a lot of times we don't know what's going on. We don't know why is there an August election when most elections are in November, And so that's what I'm doing is I'm doing a Walk My Ward campaign to let the citizens know what is going on in my ward. And if you have any questions, I do post it online, the letter that I give everybody. I keep it completely open, transparent. And so if you have any questions, comments, just let me know. I think it's great that we live in a democracy where people can vote, and I'm glad that people are participating in government. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Reed?
Early voting has begun. I just want to encourage everyone to exercise their right. And please come forward and do that so that we can have good representation. Thank you.
Read, Carol?
Well, this is the 100th anniversary of the passage of Amendment 19, which gave women the right to vote. And I sit here and I think we're talking about elections. What would it be like if the four of us that are on the board could not vote, but you guys could? These women fought very hard for us to have that right. And I would encourage everybody to vote, but I would encourage women to honor these women that preceded us by voting, because I think it's quite an honor to have the right to vote. I also want to congratulate Philip on your designation. I really appreciate the time and effort that you spend to get that. I also want to congratulate Lieutenant Peavyhouse with the fire department on 5 years of service. And I appreciate what you're doing, Marla. Lisa. But I had one guy come up and say, I'm going to vote for those 3 candidates of Lisa's. So that made me start to wonder. So if you could, I would like to see what you had in that packet.
It's online.
Thank you.
Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Early voting did start, and I'm very thankful for Amendment 19 because my wife and I went and voted, and I think that may be the only 2 votes I got. So at least Kathy could vote for me. That's a plus. I saw the article on the destruction of public property and all that, and the question was asked, what are we doing about that? I think the truth of the matter and the question should have been, what are we not doing about it? We're not telling our police department to stand down like these other areas have done. We told our police department, and our chief is sitting right back there. If I'm telling them a lie, he can say so real quick. But we expect them to abide by the law and to enforce the law. And that should eliminate any problem going forth on that situation. I'm kind of glad take this thing off, I'm choking myself to death. I'm kind of glad the voting started today, and it'll be over with a week from today, and we'll have it all over and done with. This is the 3rd time I've run for office, and if you take all the mud that's been thrown all 3 times, I think it doesn't match what's going on in this particular election. I just wish people, when they put this stuff out, would do this whole thing called fact check, because some of what I've seen, and they've asked people to look at the recordings of the board meetings, and if people did that, they'd see how much of what they're saying is a lie. It's just inaccurate altogether, and I hope they do that. They think they're proving their point, and what they're doing is they're proving it's a bunch of bunk. It's unfortunate that we have to have that in our city, some of it from our own area here and some of it from our candidates, and it's just too bad. People of Siloam Springs deserve better than that. And I hope that outcome is what it does prevail by this hour next week. I look forward to serving again if I am elected, and I'll try to do the same commendable job that I feel like I've done, so I'll just leave it at that. This is not I didn't put signs out because I think you've got board meetings to approve what I've done, so that'll speak louder than any sign I could put up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Bob. Mindy?
I will give my congratulations as well. Congratulations on your new certification. I have a question for you. This is a silly question, but it's about the drop-off week at the sanitation department. So you told us that the 62 tons was about a third what you collected in fall cleanup, but wonder how many tons we collected spring cleanup last year, spring 2019. That might be an interesting comparison to maybe we don't ever collect as much in the spring, or maybe we collect more. Just a question. And also have a question about, and this may have been addressed, and I may have just been a la la land at the time, but we had talked about trees on the 412 median at some point. What is the process, or what's the status of that?
So the status of that is staff is currently working on a plan to phase that in.
Okay.
The dollar amount is, as always,
An issue.
we got some more direct quotes, and the dollar amount was pretty high. So we're trying to, there's a term and I just forgot it, to value engineer the design a little bit, maybe reduce the number of trees, open it up somewhat, maybe not put in as much. We wanted to add about 3-foot wide pieces of stamped concrete along the back of the curb. We may need to cut that down to 2 feet, but we're trying to figure out how to do that, and then look at doing it in over a number of years in like 2 or 3 phases.
Okay.
And then we'll bring that back to the board and have a discussion at that point once we figure out exactly what we'd like to recommend.
I saw someone mowing the median the other day, and it made me think, oh, wait, I think we were going to be putting some trees here to avoid some of that.
Still our plan to bring it to the board ultimately and
Okay.
try to do that. We did get the grant money from the Walton Family Foundation
Right.
for the trees. It's not tied to a specific number of trees, but it's a little bit, it's more expensive than we originally estimated, and we're just trying to figure out how to make it work is to still have an attractive aesthetic median, but also meet the needs, which was trying to eliminate as much maintenance of the median as possible so we don't get somebody hurt one day.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Mr. Holbert, for the information about the candidate forum and just for putting that together, all the work you went through to put that together. I think that is a good time for candidates to get to speak on some of the things that they love about Siloam and things that they want to do with Siloam, and just talk about their feelings on certain issues. Want to confirm with you, you said both candidates and residents can join by Zoom. So if a candidate is not available to be there in person, that candidate can join by Zoom, and residents can as well. Thank you. That's perfect. Good deal. Okay, because I think it is good for everybody to be there so that the residents have a chance to get to know everybody. I know some of the candidates have social media pages that I think that's one way to get to know them, so that might be a good place to go get some information about them. So definitely encourage people to participate in that, and with it being available on Zoom. Now, will you be posting information about how to join that Zoom call on the chamber site? Can he?
Certainly.
Okay, yes.
You need to come up so everybody can hear you, and
Sorry,
state your name just for the record.
Yeah. Arthur Holbert, Chamber of Commerce. Sorry, I didn't know the rules.
I didn't either.
Okay. Yes, it is on Zoom. It's on the Chamber website.
Chamber website.
Basically, I've done a thing that makes me very nervous. I've taken security off of Zoom.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've muted everyone, so it makes me very nervous. So I'll be monitoring that closely. If something not right is, I'll try to turn that off quickly. But basically, we do have a Zoom account where we can have a lot of people on.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'll want to put, so I put something on my Facebook page just about early voting, and I'll want to put something about the candidate forum as well, so that people know they can join one way or the other.
Absolutely. And we're probably even going to try a Facebook Live as well, too.
Okay.
But Zoom is already in place, and all the candidates and the Chamber website already have that Zoom link.
Okay. I will refer people to the Chamber of Commerce website for information about how to get involved in that forum one way or the other. And then just, as several people have mentioned, exercise your right to vote. It's a privilege that we have, so I encourage you to go do that between now and next Tuesday.
Thank you, Mindy. Well, Brad,
I'm so excited. I'm going to take my mask off.
Yeah, here's your opportunity, because you're not cutting into anybody else's time except ours.
Start that timer.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
I just want to reemphasize place-based amenity economics. I brought this up before, and I think this gravel bike race is an example. Sometimes it's trying to entertainment district as an example, parklets as an example, Memorial Park, Chautauqua Amphitheater as an example. Sometimes it's events that last over a period of time that bring people out of state. In this case, it happens to be bicycles. And, you know, us partnering with the corridor, we are the city of five. We have a seat at the table. If you don't like that, you're living in the wrong city. If you don't like that statement, please meet me for coffee. If you're unable to meet me for coffee, you got a problem. So I make that statement because these are facts. No matter what happens in this process, and I believe in the process, if I sign your petition, it doesn't mean I support you as a candidate. It means I support the process. And the process is we have board goals set. This city of Siloam is moving forward. We are growing. This is the fastest growth rate this city has ever experienced. The conversation that we're having now is how to park vehicles, worried about traffic volume. These are good problems to have, but they're problems we're going to have to figure them out, and they have numerical problems with them also. And you have to be able to sit at a board and be an adult and have a conversation and be able to process information. And you have to be able to walk away from the board as an adult, as an upstanding citizen, and go home and carry on with your day. And you need to leave it there. And that's why I don't participate in social media. I think it's a double-edged sword. And it could be misconstrued, and it's a fine line on that ethics. And it concerns me around this time of elections. I'm excited. I said it before that we have numerous people running. Some of those folks came to my door. Some of those folks came right here. I signed the petition. I encouraged them all equally. Although I may have not been recognized by some of these candidates as a board member, in fact, I would interpret that as unethical of a candidate running. But having said that, it is the process. It is a free America. And so I embrace that. But if you have a problem embracing economic growth and development, then you're not going to like where we're going in Siloam. Because through attrition, when you reach a certain age, whatever you believe in, let's say it's a greater power above us, you are going to the great spirit in the sky. And the next generation is going to come along, and they're going to keep going forward. And that's the generation that we're setting the foundation for today. And it's not for me. It's not for any of us here. It's for those behind us. It's for those kids running around in that splash pad. It's for the city adjusting the hours. It's for all of us working through this, whether you believe in this or not. It's a judge-free zone on me. I'm not going to bash either way. Although the guy at Casey's this morning, there was that, the internal demon in me wanted to reach out and spank a grown man, but the law said, I don't know. So I couldn't. But we're all human like everybody else. We're just citizens. We're just trying to do the best we can. We're representing you. We have no hidden agendas. It's here. As Director Coleman said, you can review the meetings. It's all out there on the table. The budget's transparent. We get one all the time. If you don't like those numbers, then you should run for the board. But we are going to spend money. We are going to move forward. We are going to eventually get that 6% out of the budget, and we're going to get some projects online. They may be delayed, or they may be true. We may get less ginkgos now. Hallelujah. I'm very excited about less trees on 412. I'm sure somebody else is too. But neither here nor there. You have to sit at the table, and you have to participate. And as we go into 2021, no matter what the outcome is of the election, we are going to eventually meet again, and it may be small meetings, capped to 30. We might have to have more of those meetings. I don't know what the format's going to look like. I do know that, just like in the past, when we adopted the Main Street Master Plan, you have to show up. And if you don't show up, the ranting and raving on social media is for some, I don't even follow this stuff. But everybody reminds me that I have a fan base out there, and it looks like we're not going to hug anytime soon. And I'm okay, because you can ask, there's a few left at the firehouse that I was never a big hugger. But what I was about is moving forward and serving the city of Siloam. So that's a long way to come around to say this. In Northwest Arkansas, we have 322 miles of natural surface trails. We have 162 miles of multi-use trails in Benton, Washington County. And in the past 2 years in Northwest Arkansas, cycling is up 10% and pedestrian use of these trails are up 2%. What does that mean for us as a community of Siloam? It means our community is healthier. It means we have free activities for the citizens to do in Siloam Springs. Doesn't cost a lot of money. You can get out and walk. You get more quality time with your family. You become healthier, and the world is a better place. It is difficult right now with this many churches that we have in Siloam. When we leave that church and we go back out in the community, the most difficult thing my dad told me when I was young, and told me again when I was a little older, and keeps telling me all the time, the most difficult thing is actually just practicing those things on a daily basis. Keep it simple. Try to be understanding of others. Be courteous and kind. Be humble. And be flexible, and just know that things are going to change. We are going to change out of this. The Arkansas Department of Health has encouraged us to get our influenza shot, our flu shot, so we don't compound COVID-19. I haven't got that monkey virus shot since I left the fire department. But this is the year that I'm going to get that shot. And as an example, and if it helps. And what I mean by helping, it's helping others around me, being more responsible for that. So that's something that please keep in mind. Please go out and vote. And remember, we are moving Siloam forward. And I am on here for 2 more years. And in 2 years, I hope and I pray that I have 5 or 6 people that want to be on Ward 2. You know, I really encourage that. I'm excited about it. So having said that, Mr. Mayor, I'd ask that we adjourn this meeting.
Brad? Well, I believe we have a motion to adjourn this here meeting. Is that right? Did I hear a second out of Director Coleman?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Woo pig, suey, maybe. Soon.